Hello everyone and welcome back to my corner of the internet. Today we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, my very battered copy of it that I've had way too long and annotated way too much. This is basically going to be a mixture of this is what the book contains, showing some of my annotations, and comparing it to the movie that I have not seen, but I've heard about it. Well, for starters, at the very beginning, there's a very large introduction. Very large introduction. For further reading, comments, and questions, look at that. There's just a lot of stuff that's not book in here. And it starts with the biography of Emily Bronte, which I think is pretty cool. And then, after a very large introduction with Roman numerals that people don't understand anymore, including me, and some minor water damage, we get to the genealogy, and it explains all the characters. But this helps a little bit, but it doesn't really help because you're not going to be flipping back and forth here every time that there's a new thing. So then there's a biographical notice of Ellis and Acton Bell, which I don't know who these people are. I've never looked at this. I just didn't think this was worth it. And more Roman numerals. Editor's preface, because we just can't get to the actual. One thing I like about this, though, is that there's these little things. They help you. If there's, like, specific old wording that they know you won't know, they'll put a little mark at the bottom to help you. And then there's the first chapter. I did annotate here a little bit. This is basically where we meet the narrator. And the narrator is just meeting, what the heck is his name? Heathcliff and his wife, who I thought was Isabel, but was not Isabel. And yeah, so he just meets them. He realizes he gets attacked by their dogs, which is interesting. He's just, and this is just me just bashing on Heathcliff because I don't like him. Because pretty obviously I don't like him. If you've heard anything about Wuthering Heights, you've definitely heard something to do with him being, like, messed up in the head. At one point, he's called more beast than man, and I think that's really funny. I don't know where that is in here. But this part is just him meeting them and realizing that they're not very nice. And then he goes back to them the next day, and he runs into a blizzard, and he's like, please, I need someone to help me get home. I'm going to get lost. And they're like, there's no one here to help you, bud. Sorry. And then he's like, well, can I stay the night? And they're like, no. So it's like, what is he supposed to do? He eventually gets a room. Aprons worn by children to protect their clothing. Smock. Where does that say that? It'll be smock. I don't know, but I feel like, pinafores. I know that bird. Isn't it like a type of fabric or something? Linton. And then he spends the night there, and then there's a part where he gets, like, sick. And then there's a nanny. And basically all of Wuthering Heights is him telling a story to a nanny about Heathcliff and Catherine. It's about his childhood, because the nanny was also the nanny for Catherine. And so she knows all the gossip, and she tells it. She talks about the childhood where I think Heathcliff was either a different race or poor or something, and that made Catherine's father, because something happened to her mother. I bet she died in childbirth, because that was pretty common back then. I think he died in childbirth. And eventually, and the dad just doesn't like Heathcliff because of either race or being poor, or he was an orphan, I think. I think he ended up there at their house, and they just let him stay, but they hated him. The father wasn't very nice. I think he was a drunk, definitely abusive to Heathcliff, not to Catherine. And so there was that. And since they're not related, it's not really weird, but Heathcliff and Catherine get this, like, forbidden romance thing, and they like, I shan't eat it. That's my favorite part of Old English. I shan't eat it. It's just that. So, now I forgot where I was. But from there, it's just basically their childhood, how they navigate their forbidden love, apparently. And then there's new neighbors that come in, and their names are, I think it's like Linton and Isabel. And because they have a forbidden romance, they're like, Isabel ends up liking Heathcliff, and Catherine ends up with Linton first, and then Heathcliff settles for Isabel, and so there's that kind of thing. And I don't remember which one of them, but one of them, it's Catherine. She ends up at their house because she goes to visit her sick sister. Her sister got sick, so she goes to visit her sick sister and stay and help take care of them. And she bonds with Linton. Yeah, that's what happened. And then they like kind of fall in love, and then Heathcliff's like, well, I guess I'll take Isabel then. So he takes Isabel. And look at that big line of text. That's I forgot his name. It starts like a J. There's Isabel. Oh, it's Isabella. Never mind. Whoops. It's not Mr. Earnshaw. Hindley is the kid of Isabel and Heathcliff, because eventually they have a kid, which is crazy to think about. And then for some reason the kids end up getting together, and that doesn't make sense to me all the way. But that's what happens there. They end up getting together. But the main tragic things that happens before we get to the kids' storyline is this. First off, we see Heathcliff and Catherine's childhood from the nanny's POV. She talks about them. She tells a story to this. I guess I should say this. The main narrator is the neighbor, and he meets from like not quite the future, but before everything or after everything happens, Heathcliff, and he's like, I don't like them. But he ends up stuck at their house, and so the nanny tells him stories to pass the time about Heathcliff and Catherine's childhood, which is where we see all that stuff that happened. And then Isabel and Heathcliff get married, and then Catherine and Linton get married, and they have their separate kids. But Catherine basically goes kind of crazy because partially because of her forbidden romance with Heathcliff, and partially because I don't really remember. Something happened. I think it just developed over time. I don't know if there was a specific other instance that caused it. But she's going insane. And for some reason, Heathcliff has this whole entire large monologue about you can't go mad because if you die, how am I going to live without you? And she does, I think she goes mad and gets sick at the same time. And there's this whole part where he's like in her room while she's sick, and he's like begging her to not leave him. And because if she goes, how is he possibly going to live on without her? And when she's sick, she like rips open like a pillow and like looks out the window and like does crazy stuff. And eventually she does pass. And that's one of the things that turns Heathcliff extra grumpy. He was already like that from a bitter childhood, and that's just how he is a little bit. So there's that. And then we move on to their kids' storyline, and they end up getting together. But the kid Linton, he's like permanently sick. He's like born weak. And he's kind of spoiled and like ratty. He's the one that said that line, I shan't eat it. And so she and she and him have this like on and off romance thing, and he's like, and every time she tries to like make him be serious, like, hey, what are we doing here? What are we? He like throws this massive tantrum, and he's like, you can't do this to me. I promise I'm okay. I just love you so much. And then there's that. And then, oh my gosh, I don't quite remember what happens at the end of the book. But that happens. So there's that. Blood gushed from his mouth. Oh yeah, he gets like punched and stuff. Yeah, Linton's like got this. He's like weak, nerve the system that keeps you from getting sick. So, Catherine's daughter. If you look back at the beginning, somewhere around here there should be the little family tree, so we can see for sure. If we may so be inclined to find it. Genealogy. Hello, Roman numeral. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Great. Oh, never mind. Oh, Hareton's the brat that can't read. That's what he is. Yeah, look, Heathcliff and Isabella get married. Catherine and... Oh, I was wrong. It's Catherine and Hindley. And oh, never mind. Ignore me. Hindley is the person that Catherine marries. But that doesn't particularly matter. Because it's Catherine... Who did I say Catherine? I think it was Linton. Yeah, it is Linton that Catherine. Of course she names her kid Catherine, because this isn't confusing enough. I'm going to refer to Catherine as Old Catherine. The one that marries Hindley is Old Catherine. And Young Catherine is the one that marries Linton. Great. I love that for us. How do you keep track of your characters, Emily Bronte? But they have that Young Catherine and Linton have that thing going on. And I think the story just ends, like, around that point. And the point of this story is to show how children navigate moving past their parents. Because both of the... I think it even says at the very back of the book that they're... Catherine and Heathcliff are willfully childish. And... quote-unquote soulmates. Which I don't know if I agree with that, but okay. So they've got that going for them. Willfully childish. And Catherine is spoiled. She's spoiled and she's very hot-headed and... No, she's just like stubborn and impulsive. Heathcliff is the more hot-headed one. I think he like slaps his son or something. Or he's very mean to his son for some reason. So there's that. And then the point of the book is, can these children overcome the reputations their parents left them and become something different? Can they change? Because Linton's father wasn't very good, and Catherine's mother went insane and died. So can you move past that and become better than your parents were? And by the end of the book, we can see that, yes, they start. It's not some huge, massive thing where it's like, with like dramatic music and all that. It's just them slowly learning that, yes, we can overcome the shadow of our parents and be better. So there's that. And how... I haven't really seen the movie. I can't compare this to the movie. I know that there's stuff in the movie. I know there's stuff in the movie that isn't like the book at all, because of course there is. That's how movies work. But that's kind of the thing. And I think that this is definitely worth a read. It's not too terribly challenging to read, because Pride and Prejudice is the same way in terms of like skill you need to read it. It's not written like rocket science. It's just written a little backwards. Like, look at this page. This isn't terrible to read. They just... Oh, it's Joseph. That's the name of the worker. His name is Joseph. I know. And these little things at the bottom, you can find a copy with them. Like that with the heads person's thing. You can find stuff that does that. You can find versions of the books that do that. And then it's just a little bit backwards. They take more words than it takes to say something. I remembered I was lying in the oak closet, and I heard distinctly the gusty wind and the driving of the snow. They say I heard distinctly. I mean, I guess that's fine. All they do is they take stuff and they make it wordier than it needs to be, and they speak backwards. So it's not like it's necessarily difficult. It's just a little new way to think. It's like solving a math problem. It's the same concept. It's nothing really that difficult. So I do recommend this to read. It's really good. It has humor parts. It's fun to annotate. The characters, you either love them or you hate them, or both. And that's basically all there is to it. And thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.